Your morning routine is a performance tax. The productivity industry has sold you a lie rooted in performative suffering. We see CEOs and elite athletes preaching the gospel of the 4 o'clock a.m. wake-up call, and we assume the time on the clock is the catalyst for their billions. It isn't. In fact, for most people, forced early rising is a cognitive tax that degrades your most valuable asset, your decision-making quality. When you force your biology into a schedule that triggers a permanent state of sleep debt, you aren't becoming more disciplined. You are becoming slower. You are trading your high-level strategic vision for a low-level sense of accomplishment. The paradox is that you feel like a winner because you're awake when others are sleeping, but if your brain is operating at 60% capacity, you're just a tired person doing mediocre work earlier than everyone else. Real high performance is about the density of your output, not the timestamp of your input. Think of your brain like a high-performance server. If you keep the hardware running hot without proper cooling cycles, the processing speed drops. You might be online, but you aren't processing. The elite 1% understand that sleep is not a luxury. It is a specialized recovery phase for strategic calibration. The Roman elite didn't conquer the world because they woke up before the sun. They conquered it because they built systems of logistics and engineering that made effort secondary to structure. They focused on the architecture of victory. When you obsess over the time you wake up, you are focusing on a micro habit while ignoring the macro strategy. You are essentially rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. The 4 o'clock a.m. trap creates a false sense of security. It allows you to check off a box and say, "I did the hard thing today," which ironically gives you a subconscious license to play it safe for the rest of the day. This performative discipline is actually a form of ego padding. It feels good to tell people you're part of the 5 a.m. club. But the market doesn't pay for your wake-up time. It pays for the magnitude of the problems you solve. If you are solving small problems because you're too tired to think about big ones, you are failing at the highest level. In this investigation, we are going to dismantle the myth of the grind to reveal the hidden mechanics of the lever. We're shifting from a mindset of manual labor to one of intellectual dominance. If you want to stop paying the performance tax and start gaining an unfair advantage, you need to understand that accessing the next stages of this investigation is the only way to see the full map. This isn't about tips. It's about a total system upgrade that requires you to abandon the comfort of working hard in favor of the discomfort of thinking deep. Stay tuned. Because the mechanism we are about to name in the next act is invisible to the average person, but glaringly obvious to those at the top who actually hold the keys to systemic power. The invisible force of cognitive leverage. There is a force that dictates who wins and who loses in the age of information, and it has nothing to do with willpower. It's called cognitive leverage. While the average person is trying to improve their work ethic, the elite are focused on increasing their leverage. Work ethic is linear. Leverage is exponential. Imagine two people trying to move a massive stone. One is using their bare hands, sweating, grunting, and pushing with everything they have at 4 o'clock a.m. The other arrives at 10 o'clock a.m., well rested, and uses a 20-foot iron bar to pop the stone out of the ground with a single push. Who has the higher performance? The answer is obvious, yet in your daily life, you are likely the person pushing with your hands. This invisible force is what separates a world-class negotiator from a busy salesman. The salesman makes 100 calls. The negotiator makes one call to the person who controls the 100. This requires a shift in how you view your energy. High performance is the art of maximizing the output per unit of biological energy. If you are exhausted from your morning routine, your leverage drops to zero because you no longer have the mental clarity to see the iron bar. You only see the stone. When your prefrontal cortex is depleted, your brain defaults to path of least resistance thinking. You become a reactionary machine, responding to emails, fixing minor fires, and feeling busy. But busyness is a sign of a lack of leverage. The truly powerful are rarely busy. They are available for the right opportunity. They protect their cognitive reserves so that when the 20-foot iron bar appears, they have the strength to use it. This concept traces back to Archimedes, who famously said that given a long enough lever and a place to stand, he could move the world. Your mind is the place to stand, but your strategy is the lever. If you are grinding without a lever, you are just a well-oiled cog in someone else's machine. This brings us to a critical realization. Are you actually working on the most important thing, or are you just working hard so you don't have to think about what the most important thing is? Us audiences often pride themselves on the hustle, but I challenge you to ask yourself, is your hustle a strategy or a distraction from your lack of a plan? It's much easier to work 80 hours a week than it is to spend 10 hours of intense, agonizing thought on how to make those 80 hours unnecessary. Share your thoughts in the comments. How many times have you hustled your way into a dead end because you were too tired to look at the map? By answering this, you begin to break the cycle of performative labor. But to truly operationalize this force and move beyond mere theory, we have to look at how the historical elite actually built their blueprints for power using structures that bypass the need for constant human effort. The elite blueprint for operational power. To understand how to master cognitive leverage, we have to look at the archaeology of success within the Roman legion and the Venetian merchant class. These groups didn't rely on individual heroics or the willpower of a single leader. They relied on operational power. This is the transition from human effort to system execution. A Roman centurion didn't have to be the strongest man on the battlefield. He just had to be part of the most unbreakable formation. The formation did the work. The soldier simply maintained the position. In modern terms, your formation is your environment, your routines, and your digital stack. The elite build moats around their focus. They treat their attention like a sovereign territory that requires border patrol. While you are reacting to notifications at 5 o'clock a.m., the high performer has already engineered their day so that they only touch the 3 levers that move the entire empire. They use what I call negative discipline. Standard discipline is the strength to say yes to the work. Negative discipline is the strategic coldness to say no to everything else. It is the refusal to be pulled into the trivial. This is how a CEO can run 5 companies while you struggle to manage 1 inbox. They aren't 5 times faster. They just have 5 times the leverage through better systems. They understand that every yes to a distraction is a no to their legacy. This is not about time management. It's about power management. History shows that the most successful individuals were those who automated or delegated the mundane to focus on the monumental. The Venetians created the first assembly lines for warships, allowing them to outproduce entire nations not by working harder, but by organizing better. You are currently trying to build your warship by hand, alone, in the dark, at 4 o'clock a.m. It is time to stop being the laborer and start being the engineer. This act of building systems is what the algorithm of success actually rewards. When you engage with this content by liking or subscribing, you aren't just doing me a favor. You are signaling to the algorithm that you are part of a tribe that values depth over noise. It builds a sense of community among those who play the long game. It helps the system find more people who think like you, strengthening the network of high-level strategists. But as we move into the deeper layers of this blueprint, we must address the internal shift that no one wants to talk about. This is the moment where the strategy becomes personal. This is where most people turn back because it gets too real and forces a confrontation with their own reflection. The cost of your comfort. Let's stop talking about systems for a moment and talk about you. Why are you so attached to the idea of working hard? Is it because it makes you feel safe? Is it because as long as you are busy, you don't have to face the fact that you might be heading in the wrong direction? The most uncomfortable truth in high performance is that your effort might be your greatest shield against your potential. It is much easier to wake up at 4 o'clock a.m. and do mindless tasks than it is to sit in silence for 2 hours and solve the one problem that is actually holding you back. Performative work is a comfort zone. It's a way to feel morally superior without actually being strategically superior. True elite performance is lonely. It requires a level of mental isolation that most people can't handle. It requires you to be okay with being unproductive in the eyes of the world while you are building the iron bar that will eventually move the world. Are you brave enough to be the person who sleeps until 8 o'clock a.m. because you know your 9 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. will be more impactful than someone else's entire week? Or are you too addicted to the social validation of being the hardest worker in the room. We have been conditioned to believe that if we aren't suffering, we aren't winning. But the highest form of winning looks like ease. It looks like flow. It looks like the master calligrapher who spends hours preparing the ink and only seconds making the stroke. If you cannot tolerate the anxiety of not being busy, you will never reach the level of the architect. This is the sanctuary where the real work happens. No podcasts in the background, no motivational music, no social media check-ins. Just you and the brutal reality of your strategic gaps. In this act, there are no requests for likes or shares. This is pure immersion. You need to feel the weight of the time you've wasted on hustle that led nowhere. If you can't handle the silence, you will never handle real power. Real power is quiet. Real power is patient. Real power knows that the world is moved by those who have the clarity to see the lever, not those who have the stamina to push the stone with their bare skin till they bleed. The identity shift to modern power. What if you stopped being a laborer and started being an architect? The final shift in this investigation is translating ancient wisdom into the era of artificial intelligence. In a world where AI can do the effort for us, the only thing left for the human is vision and selection. The 4 a.m. grinder is being replaced by an algorithm that doesn't sleep, doesn't eat, and doesn't get tired. If your only value is hard work, you are already obsolete. But the architect, the person who understands the hidden patterns of the human mind and the historical codes of strategy, is becoming more valuable than ever. High performance in 2026 is about systemic discipline. It's about becoming the person who commands the tools rather than the person who competes with them. This identity shift is what turns a professional into an icon. Your growth is no longer tied to your hours. It's tied to your insight. We are moving from the industrial age of productivity to the strategic age of performance. In this new era, your ability to stay calm while others panic and to stay focused while others are distracted is your greatest wealth. By subscribing to this channel, you are opting into a long-term intelligence briefing designed to keep your mindset at the cutting edge of this evolution. You are joining a circle of archaeologists of success who look for the permanent truth beneath the temporary trends. This transformation is not just about what you do, it's about who you become. I want to leave you with a question that requires deep pattern recognition and honest self-reflection. If every task you currently do was automated tomorrow, every email, every spreadsheet, every repetitive action, what would be the one strategic decision you would make that no machine could replicate? What is the one move that requires your unique human intuition and historical perspective? The answer to that question is your true competitive edge. It is the only thing that will matter in the next decade. This is only the beginning of our excavation into the human operating system. The deeper we go, the more the old world of grinding and suffering fades away, and the new world of pure strategy and leverage takes its place. Welcome to the inner circle. The investigation continues in the next video, where we will decode the mental systems of the world's most silent winners.